Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry, Ch.2 Watanagashi. Last episode, Keiichi finally confronted Shion or Mion, whoever's on the other end of the phone, of just being like, hey, Shion's gone missing, so, what do you have to say for yourself, Shion? And then they laughed and hung up. And now they're going to, I guess, just go pay her a visit, which is not gonna end poorly at all, you know? So, one thing, this might be the finale. If it's not, the next episode should be. I was told in the comments last episode that either this episode will be the finale or probably 2 shorter episodes. It depends on how long this takes me, because I'm just gonna knock it all out right now, the rest of this chapter, and if it takes like more than like, I don't know, 2 hours, then I'll probably split it. But if it takes about 2 hours, then I think I'll just leave it as is. But if it's like 2.5 hours, I'm gonna split it. So yeah, we'll see. Well, you guys probably already know. I'll see. So yeah, anyways, first things first, time to discuss the new episode of the anime, which there's actually not that much to discuss, but either way, if you don't want spoilers, we're going into spoiler time, so mute now. And when I pull up the menu, you can unmute, so 3, 2, 1, we're beginning. Alright, if you haven't muted, mute. There's actually not that much to discuss with the new episode, as I already said. Yeah, like, it was mostly the same story beats. Like, there's only 1 or 2 major differences I can think of, and for one, that would be that Keiichi does not call up Rena, Satoko, and Rika to deal with the dudes in the restaurant. That scene just doesn't happen. I think that's probably because Keiichi did give the doll to Mion at the beginning of the arc, so that's something. So they didn't really have a need for Rena to just be like, Keiichi, you're a fucking idiot because you don't think about Mion's feelings. And he's just like, wait, what? I don't? He still tried to buy the doll for Shion, though, so that's interesting. I guess he's just easily influenced. And then the other difference I can think of is we kind of got a soft confirmation that the twin who brought Keiichi food at his house was Mion, dressed up as Shion, because Mion at the toy store was just like, wait, no, that was me, not you, except she, like, cut herself off, but still. Not really too much to discuss. There is, like, a few other, like, I suppose, potential signs that Shion is still already affected by Hinamizawa syndrome, perhaps? Because there were a few times where, like, her expression was darkened or something like that. Like, that also happened to Mion, but not for the same reasons. Like, that was mostly just the casual anime thing of, I'm upset, so darkness is gonna shroud my face for a minute, and I'm gonna turn around and walk away. That's more what happened to Mion. Whereas with Shion, it was just, like, regular conversation, her expression's hidden. So, that's something. I get the feeling next episode is probably when shit's gonna hit the fan. I was hoping Keiichi wouldn't go into the storehouse, and he still might not. He has not set foot in it yet, but he has decided that he wants to. I'm hoping he does not, because I feel like that would greatly change what happens. As far as what I think's going to happen with this arc, I would not be surprised if they pull the same, like, conceptual thing that they did in Onidamashi, where they had Keiichi and Rena have Hinamizawa syndrome. I would not be surprised if in this arc, they have Mion and Shion have Hinamizawa syndrome. And that would be the interesting thing, because I believe Mion has never been afflicted by Hinamizawa syndrome in any arc, so that's something. I was also thinking of something else. The whole theory of Satoko potentially being in the time loop as well, trying to undermine Rika's progress, is possible still. However, I would not be surprised if it is indeed a game between Burncastle and Lambda Delta, that Lambda's choosing a different piece each arc, maybe? Because we've seen, like, nothing of Satoko this arc. She's shown up a little bit, but not really much at all. Like, she was a lot more present in Onidamashi, so I could definitely see there being clues with that. But in Watanamashi, we've hardly seen anyone other than Keiichi, Mion, Shion, and Rika, I guess. Part of me was thinking maybe, possibly, Keiichi could be Lambda's piece this time. Since, like, the only changes we've seen so far with the arc have been caused by Keiichi giving Mion the doll. Because maybe in this arc, or maybe maybe something Lambda knows, is that if Mion is given the doll, then that causes more shit with Shion, potentially. So that would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah. As far as, like, what that would be, I don't know. Because it seems like Shion is a lot more jealous of her sister from her emotions being shown in this arc. Because from what I remember, if this arc and Arc 5, Mayakashi, I believe it's called, Mayakashi, from what I remember, is like a mirrored version of this arc, but we see it from Shion's perspective. I remember a relatively substantial amount from that arc. It seems like every murder she commits in that arc is for Satoshi. It's not out of jealousy for anybody, it's out of contempt for people who took Satoshi away from her, I suppose. So it's weird that Shion is more expressing her displeasure for Mion, rather than her showing any signs of contempt for people around her. Because maybe she sees Keiichi as being, like, Satoshi in a way to her, because she clearly at least pretends to be attached to Keiichi, maybe as like a substitute for Satoshi, because I know for a fact she was in love with Satoshi, so there's that if nothing else. So I wouldn't be surprised if Keiichi, Satoshi in her mind, like maybe her Hinamizawa syndrome makes Keiichi appear as Satoshi to her. Perhaps. Kinda doubt it, but that would explain a little bit, if nothing else. But then that begs the question of how does Shion actually develop Hinamizawa syndrome? That's something I do not know, but, yeah. Yeah, that's really the only thing I can think of. That maybe it's just going to be Shion, like maybe Mion doesn't even get Hinamizawa syndrome and it's just Shion, like, kills different people? Because I don't know why the fuck she decides to kill the mayor, assumedly. Rika kills herself, but I don't know what connection she thought she had to Satoshi. She kills Satoko because she thinks Satoko took Satoshi away from her. I don't remember, like, I think she also kills Mion. I don't know why, and she also kills Keiichi at the end. Probably just because she's entirely insane, I don't know. Regardless, I would not be surprised if Watanamashi ends up with just different people being murdered. I think we'll start seeing more differences in full force next episode, because we didn't really see too many major differences in the first 2 episodes of Onidamashi. Like, the only major, like, divergence was Rena seemingly trying to attack Keiichi at the garbage dump at the beginning of episode 2, and Keiichi not going to talk to Tomitaka and Takano at the festival. Those were the only major differences in Onidamashi up to that point. Watanamashi has less, so that's weird. But yeah, that's really all I can think of to say, so let's just end spoiler time and actually read. Welcome back, guys. Time to read. Oishi stopped the car at the place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard that it's right down this road. This is as far as I can take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up on the premises. Still, don't worry. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them and go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with a one-way mic, so if you two give a loud scream, we'll know right away.
We'll persuade her for sure, so please be ready for her to turn herself in.
In both our eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend. Be plenty careful, you hear? You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you two being sacrificed if at all possible. You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I'd never have expected this would be happening today.
Let's go, Keiichi-kun.
Okay, let's do this. Rena took the lead and began to walk, down the road I'd never been. Rena, you've been to Mion's house before, right?
Yeah, a few times. It's a really big house. You could fit a mountain into their backyard, too. You can pick mushrooms and stuff, though there are fences everywhere.
Big enough to fit a mountain? That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinamizawa, and the head family of the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inward, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there was dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family. Entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. This forest, or should I say mountain, is this all their yard?
It's more like their domain. As you can see, it's private property, but nobody maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you can go hiking in.
She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected, savage woodland. It was dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like Oishi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place. Though they had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is watching us as we come to her.
I don't think she is. The only people living in Michan's house are generally her and her grandma, after all. There's nobody to watch the cameras.
What a useless security system.
Well, Michan's father seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. So whenever everyone in the family is getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly.
That's right. Mion's father. He was a big shot Yakuza, wasn't he? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as she explained. At last, a huge gate, as big as I'd imagined, appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother, in a house with such a grand gateway? I wonder if she's here. Beep. The old buzzer made a dull sound. By the way, I had my window open because for some reason we got a heat wave, so a garbage truck just went by. Pretty loud, yeah. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting into the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released, and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion. Howdy. Whoa, this is unusual. Aren't you two going to school? Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand.
We stayed home today.
Kei-chan is one thing, but you two, Rena? You two are such troublemakers. Mion smiled lightly, in the way that the Mion we knew always did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena.
Let's go.
Rena smiled cheerfully, as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rally myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you'd think of when you hear mansion, but it was very clearly a vast space. Was this the first time you've been here, Kei-chan? Yeah. This house is enormous. Steep thatched roofs aren't that in fashion anymore. This place could be a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete soon. Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt. Don't worry about it. Things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, I shall show you inside. Please, come this way. Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly.
Keiichi-kun, you're too tense. We came to see Mi-chan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous.
That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Oishi-san's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself. What's this? Mion, what's with all this stone on top of the newspapers? It's in the way. There was a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking at it questioningly and giggled. Rena, do you know? What is this? Some kind of good luck charm? If you don't really know, then feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there.
Keiichi-kun, there's a nest of swallows right above that stone.
Huh? Oh, you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission and make nests. Must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes, they always make a nest here. It's kind of annoying, though.
In other words, it's a sign not to take off your shoes here, because swallow poop could end up in them.
I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrivance, I guess. My laughter naturally spread to the other two. A really long time ago, the Sonozaki family apparently cultivated silkworms. Our ancestors would get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. When you think of it that way, maybe this is our just desserts. Anyway, come on in. Alright. The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously, I could still feel an elegance to the place. Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. You're kidding, right? There's a terrible draft, and the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance and getting in the way of renovations. Got it? What I want most is a house like yours, Kei-chan. I'm pretty jealous of it. It seems like it would be warm in the winter. Oh, but snowfall seems like it would be a problem. Snowfall's a problem? Does Hinamizawa get that much snow? Our latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? Isn't this region warm?
You don't know, Keiichi-kun? Hinamizawa is in an area that gets heavy snowfalls. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even get out of your house. Sometimes your car gets totally buried too and you can't find where it is.
I wasn't aware of that. Hinamizawa? Was that bad a place in the winter? Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like, this place got plenty of snow, so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried? Not being able to find your car? That's way too much snow. Yeah, I live in frickin' upstate New York, so, you know, sometimes... I mean, my front door's never been buried, but sometimes, there'd be so much snow on top of my car that, I can't use it. You remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. We're different from those softies protected by the mountains, nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm totally okay with being a softie, and nice and warm. I hate the cold. We'll have to have a training camp to get Keiichi used to the cold this winter then. No way, no way. There's no way that's happening. I hate the cold, and I hate training camps too. And I hate them even more put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, then told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment.
Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet our club will be a blast then.
Her club continuing activities through the winter sounds totally horrible. Like swimming in the cold or marching in the snow? When did we turn into Mount Redhorn? Is that a reference?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season. One time she made us have a Rio carnival in the schoolyard while snow was falling.
I don't know what that is, but okay. I see the terror of her club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events.
We do snowball fights and shaved ice eating contests and treasure hunts in the snow.
Wait, why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice warm room while it's snowing?
Whoa, Keiichi-kun. If you're saying things like that, then you're gonna lose a lot this winter.
If he lives.
We'll have lots of punishment games, and Rena won't lose. Huh?
Don't give me that how. I settled things with a cross chop to the head. You're sure having fun. Our walls aren't very thick, so be careful not to go flying through any, okay? The paper sliding door opened and Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set. Whoever decided, yeah, we're gonna make walls out of this thin shit right here. Yeah, we got this thin shit by very, very closely chopping this thicker shit, which would make for a much better building. A much better structure, you know? Unless it's like papyrus or some other plant paper, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know the history of Japanese architecture. I hardly know the history of architecture in general, because I don't care. Do you want sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry, we don't have much in the way of bean paste or other good stuff. It's okay, it's okay. We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway. Wow, fucking destroy the mood. And with those words, the smile disappeared from Rena's face. Nah, she did it. That one careless statement reminded us of what we had nearly been able to forget. I had wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we put an end to that with those honestly careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air, that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago, had slipped through the cracks in the paper door, and altogether disappeared. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here today to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word. Here you are. Drink up. We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in it or anything. I was not thinking that. Do you distrust me that much? That's upsetting. Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. Okay, guys, you want to say something? We all remained silent. We remained silent, hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak. Hey, now. Kei-chan, Rena, you're the guests. Didn't you come here for something? If you don't speak up first, this old man won't know what to do. Rena and I exchanged glances, and we both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her.
Keiichi-kun?
It's okay. I needed to come here. Let me talk first.
Okay. I understand.
What would Kei-chan have to tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe? Can't do that. My little Rena and Kei-chan aren't meant for each other. Go wash your face with miso soup and try again later. Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration, but it was actually a death threat because... I don't fucking know how to continue that joke. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders. Mion. First, I have something to apologize for. You do? What for? Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I'd clearly gotten my point across. Well, on the night of Watanagashi, the ritual storehouse behind the shrine, I went in there. I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be a little bit of exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. Even so, I still shouldn't have done it. So I apologize. I'm sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I'd meant it as my way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You've got me on the ropes. I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly. If you understand that, even though it was just a casual exploration for you, Kei-chan, that there are a lot of people who think it's no laughing matter, then it's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's been days since then. Maybe too late, but I apologize. What I did was wrong. Please, forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. That's okay. If you know what you did was bad, then that's enough, right? Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it.
Michan, Keiichi-kun is apologizing seriously. I think maybe you should respond seriously as well.
I am being serious, though. Do I not look serious to you, Rena?
You don't.
Rena was giving her tit for tat, and so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it's felt like she hasn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that.
Keiichi-kun, you can get up now. Let's tell her everything. That looks like what Michan wants too.
I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion, you called Rika-chan and Satoko the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it?
It was evening, before dinner time. Rika-chan should have come here, bringing a big bottle of soy sauce, to have you share some with her.
Mion was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit. Why do you think that?
It's not hard to understand. Michan, you saw it too, didn't you? Rika-chan's room.
Mion put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking.
There was chilled tofu, but no soy sauce. Plus, the big bottle of soy sauce that should have been under the sink was nowhere to be found.
What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion, drop the act. You wrote it yourself on the notice, didn't you? That you'd share your soy sauce? Mion scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was as though we found out she'd purposefully given too little change to a servant. Wait, what? Oh, okay. That's all I could feel from her.
Then, Michan, Rika-chan,
Era? Era? Well, okay.
You hit her.
Oh, erased. Okay.
You hit her.
Rena hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word erased, and that she was struggling to find another word.
That was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway.
What are you talking about?
You didn't foresee that Rika-chan would tell Satoko-chan that she was going to your house, did you, Mi-chan? Then Satoko-chan called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, probably just like that.
You sound just like her.
Mi-chan, you were in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika-chan had come here. So you decided to wear Satoko-chan here too.
Lure her out? Like how, I wonder? Mion prodded Rena on, as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew. I had been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been a bullseye.
It probably went like this. Satoko, I actually made too much dinner today, so why not come over and eat? Rika-chan came earlier and already ate some. Something like that.
Scratch. Mion's nails dug into her knee. There's no recordings of the phone conversations or anything. So how do you know that much? Oh.
I know it because the dinner that Satoko-chan made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in the refrigerator and hadn't been touched.
For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena. Oh, interesting. With just that to go on, how did you even guess what we said over the phone?
It's a long explanation, so I'll get to the point. The contents of that refrigerator provided a vivid account of what she said over the phone when you lured her out.
Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face. Oh, that's... I had no idea I had such an incredible detective right next to me the whole time. I can't believe you'd figure out everything. Right down to the phone conversation. Just from what was inside the fridge. You've got me there. You've got me. You've got me. As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost the detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true.
An incredible detective? Mi-chan, you're the one who guessed what Oishi-san told us. He called me an incredible detective too.
As soon as she heard Oishi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly, so that anyone would be able to tell. Mion, the police have suspected you for a long time now. Oishi-san's officers have had the house under observation so that they could break in at any time. Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Rena's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house.
Was the mayor? Mi-chan too?
Were Tomatake-san and Takano-san? You as well? Mion didn't answer her rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. No, that's kind of unsettling. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. The impatience and wonderment in her eyes' expression disappeared, and she became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now, in this moment. Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. That solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of the Mion I knew. Now, I could believe it. Now, I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat, and gave a beautifully elegant bow, as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself. We meet for the first time. I am the current heir to the Sonozaki house. My name is Mion. Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Rena and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing. I would like to welcome you to the Sonozaki main house today. I will greet you all in place of our leader, Oreo. It seems as though you have various things you would like to ask. If I can be of any assistance, then I would like to answer, without concealing anything. What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There was a strong light of resolve in her eyes. It's really alright if we ask anything then? I shall tell you everything I know. That is why you have come here after all. Rena and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now.
Why would you do this?
That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? That didn't only go for Rika-chan and Satoko. It went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomatake-san as well. Now, even further back, for all the incidents that had been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question will take some time. If that is acceptable, however, then I would by all means like you to hear it. She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago. Do you know that Hinamizawa village used to be called Onigafuchi village? Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once called Onigafuchi village. Yes. I heard all about it that night from Takano-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through her veins, and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages at the foot of the mountains, and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right. Our ancestors in Onigafuchi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worshipped and honored them. Nevertheless, that all decayed with the end of the Tokugawa era. The black ships arrived. The era of the samurai ended. The era of national isolation ended. And the tradition of worshipping Onigafuchi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became. The Meiji era began, and the name of Onigafuchi village, with its long history, was forcibly changed to Hinamizawa village. I have heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs. The abolition of feudal domains, and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level as the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all old traditional things were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was. Our ancestors in Onigafuchi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Onigafuchi village disappeared in a flash. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began, and they won war after war. The First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War. And until the Pacific War broke out, they recklessly climbed the staircase towards modernization. At the time, Onigafuchi Village had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers, once worshipped as transcendents, were now on the receiving end of inhuman treatment. The sacred Onigafuchi Village had been groundlessly labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Okay. Thus began harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onigafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Okay. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you'd be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces, and devoured. Never, ever go near the terrifying village of the man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dry riverbeds, then cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories was said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onigafuchi Village's historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onigafuchi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. Okay? It even caused trials. They would appeal that where one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage.
That's terrible.
I've heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you'd be subjected to every societal disadvantage there was. A modern form of bullying. Though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recalled being suspicious about it, and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan.
Well, I suppose I can't say that they weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing through them. They lived their lives boasting about it and scorning those at the foot of the mountain, after all. They struck fear into the villagers down there with their mystique, and demanded gifts of dread and tribute.
With that, Mion smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery.
During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was acting as one, those from Hinamizawa continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time.
Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945.
Hinamizawa had lost many male hands, but at last, their fathers and husbands and sons returned to them. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Hinamizawa, who were at their limits, barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing.
MacArthur's GHQ set to work on drastically improving mindsets, and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era.
Hinamizawa was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again, and got to work, trying to make the village even a little more plentiful.
During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader, Sohei Sonozaki.
Sohei said that he managed food warehouses in Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, He conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the Seto Inland Sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property. So he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamizawa was revitalized after the war.
I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity.
Of course, there were many people who begrudged the money coming from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it.
They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization.
The person at the middle of all of it was your Nana, Mi-chan? That's amazing! What a great success!
Mion looked like she was honestly happy Rena had praised her.
However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again. Because of the canned flesh incident.
Canned flesh? They have it! Canned flesh! I can't believe it! It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous.
Someone naming himself as my grandfather Sohei Sonozaki's superior confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh.
Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans. They were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma. The light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth, as revealed by his former superior. The stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of food warehouses? His superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job of managing the food.
In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and to transport the corpses of those with infectious diseases.
It had been unfair treatment, and not because of the loneliness of his origins. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than the low, scorned, depressing customs of Onigafuchi village, in the research they were carrying out. Could that have been, well, you know, the bacteriological core in the old Japanese army or whatever?
Keiichi-kun, you've heard of that? What could it be?
I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims. How many days it would be when injected. How many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive, and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outwards, and their intestines get pushed out of their anus like a snake winding out of it. Okay, great. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. That makes me sick. And they still hate Hinamizawa, huh?
You said it.
Mion agreed with me, giving a faint, sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason, I was happy to have it right now.
The unit Sohei was in did way kinder research than that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield.
The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistances lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. Apparently, that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields. It was very broad, and included things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control, until finally they knocked down a door called Taboo.
What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is?
Rena and I knew the answer without being told, so we didn't answer.
That's right. They were researching ways to handle using humans as food. Fighting onwards, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and sometimes that of allies, became the ultimate service paid to their country. They were deathly serious about this doctrine. It really is a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond that. Apparently, he always thought about it too. Even if he was a vulgar, man-eating demon, they were far more ugly demons than he. So no matter how much he was scorned, he wouldn't put up with it.
At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a circle.
The starved soldiers on the front lines apparently loved all the prototypes they were sent. Among them, those who cooked it in soy sauce, like it was sukiyaki, loved it the most.
Come on, Michan, stop! I'm getting sick to my stomach.
Rena really was pale-faced, and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Mion looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there. Then, those canned goods your grandpa brought back.
I don't know if it's true. Sohei denied it was human flesh up until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Hinamizawa's sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune from selling human flesh. And the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children would be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them.
The stifling silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated, and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know.
My grandmother, the family head, once told the children of the village this.
If they throw a stone at one of you, then two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was simple.
If they throw stones at two of you, throw them back with 4. If they chase 8 of you with sticks, drive them off with 16. If they slander 30 of you, yell back with 60.
Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple.
If 1,000 people attack you, then everyone in Hinamizawa will stand up against them. It was a manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose up not only as the leader of the Sonozaki house, but as the mother of Hinamizawa. It was halfway through Oh wait, she's not saying that. Okay. Fuck.
It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when riots over the treaty with the US were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Hinamizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Hinamizawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win.
Kei-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with those delinquents in town?
I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me, that the people of Hinamizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved.
My grandmother fought, and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Hinamizawa. Of course, that peace had been placed on a razor's edge. When you consider the previous 100 years of history, the tranquility now can only be called a chance interval, standing on uneven scales. Why? Could I really have an opinion on such a long and difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yeah, I said it anyway. Why can't everyone just live in peace? What happened to those old stories of Oyashiro-sama that I heard from Takano-san? Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Oyashiro-sama who mediated between them wasn't.
Is that why Oyashiro-sama's curse happens?
A cool gust of wind blows in from outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully queer hair. Mion kept a refreshing smile, without answering, and didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Hinamizawa Village might once more be like Onigafuchi Village. So that we may again be a sacred existence, worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onigafuchi, and the mission of those who inherit the demon in the Sonozaki main family. Those who inherit the demon? For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of including the character for demon in the leaders' names. If you write out my name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I trace out the word Mion on the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there. Not only in my name, either. The demon is engraved on my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing.
It's okay, Mi-chan. You don't need to show us, okay?
Thank you. With just that exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved that she inherited the demon. You see, the tattoo, then, that's an interesting way of distinguishing between Mion and Shion. I guess. Mion didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Hinamizawa. No, of Onigafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mion like that? Rena wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured. The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, but were rather related to the others, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. I think I was at the center of all of them. She said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew. I have faith in what I've done, and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I would have to leave the stage before the heir is decided. If I am caught and tried in a court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa at the most peaceful it's been in 100 years could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. Mion leaned a shoulder against the paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey, Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room.
But Rika-chan and Satoko-chan, you killed them, didn't you, Mi-chan?
The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me.
I'm not saying that it's okay you killed other people. Regardless, Mi-chan, you killed Rika-chan and Satoko-chan.
Rena's words were more biting than any I'd ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika-chan bore the duty of the Furude family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse.
My chest tightened.
I learned around last year that Rika-chan had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse door were too heavy for her, and she wanted to change them to a simpler lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was for Rika-chan.
My dog is barking great.
I will make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter.
I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seemed to be people who were insolent towards Oyashiro-sama. So you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, If it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse, and switched it to a really cheap and light padlock.
Old man, is this really alright? Nana says that if possible, we should keep the lock the same.
I don't know what voice to give him, he's an old guy, right? It'll be alright. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility.
Do you promise? You mean that you will take responsibility as the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, right? You should be well aware of how sacred the things inside really are.
It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinamizawa who would open the lock and break in. Meow meow.
Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat.
I had already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Watanagashi festival. There were 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika-chan and of the Furude family, and Old Man Kimiyoshi, take responsibility.
My tears dripped and dropped, until just now, I had decided that it was Mion's fault. That she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion, it was me. I might as well have killed them.
Keiichi-kun.
I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet, I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days, having lots of fun, like we always did. I was an idiot! If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed.
Kei-chan, you're not at fault.
Mion gently began to speak to me, as if trying to reason with me.
As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act. But given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it, and that's why I killed those 2. Mion Sonozaki, and nobody else, killed them. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all thought of fighting for my friends. So this is my crime. I killed them. Mion Sonozaki, with these hands, killed them. And nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing.
Her masochistic laughter was sad. Especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful.
Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition.
Huh?
As I looked at her surprised, Rena stuck her finger right at my forehead.
You left Keiichi-kun alive. As strong as you are, Michan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him.
That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club. If she had seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people had been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. The cold ice! When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other, for some reason I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive.
Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you.
What is that supposed to mean? Shh! Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rena didn't need to talk.
Is Oishi waiting outside?
Yes.
Any way out?
No. They said they have the place surrounded. It seemed like they called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded.
Mion fell silent. Rena's merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help.
Please, turn yourself in.
Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled, just a little.
We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself.
Crying children and Rena are the only things I can't beat.
She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion.
I'm well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here.
I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large, and it's gonna get bigger. Because I think I know what's happening next. So much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel.
So, I'd like you to hear one last selfish request.
Here it is.
What is it?
Is it what I think it is?
30 minutes is fine. Just let me have some time alone with Kei-chan.
I mean, I guess that's step one to what I thought was happening. Huh? My name suddenly came up, and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that.
Keiichi-kun, is that okay with you? If you don't want to, then I won't make you.
You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon. And Kei-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, as long as Oishiro-sama doesn't exist to mediate, simply isn't possible.
There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear, the sins that Mion shouldered. So, when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. Sure, it's fine.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you too, Keiichi-kun.
Rena stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave.
It's fine, Rena. You can wait right here. I just want to go around the yard with Kei-chan. If you're bored, you can go to my room. You can read any manga you like. And if there are any volumes you like, you might as well take them.
I don't want to. Michan's books belong to Michan. Rena couldn't bring them back with her so freely.
You're such a good kid. Only at times like this.
Mion took Rena's head and rubbed it violently like I always did.
Okay, let's go, Kei-chan.
I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway, when Rena silently stopped me.
Take care. of Mi-chan.
Yeah.
Mi-chan really does believe she won't ever be able to come back.
I didn't know much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent.
Watch out so that you don't make her lose her temper, okay?
Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. Rena had already thought that far ahead. Right. I won't let that happen. Rena rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing them.
Okay. Then go after her.
I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Rena sobbing from the other side of the paper door.
Why was Mi-chan made a successor to demons? Maybe it just had to happen that way. But it's just so awful.
Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last of my time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. Oh. Okay. Well, I still think I know what's happening next. Oh, Chivana walked. Sorry about that. Okay. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times, then left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this?
Can I hold your arm?
It was such a modest request. I don't mind. With my permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy, and took my arm.
Do you get kind of nervous with your arm through mine? You're not thinking, for example, that I'd suddenly put you in a world-class joint lock or anything.
You two say the same things. I don't think that at all. Back when nothing had gone wrong yet, during those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Mort, I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. I'd been arm in arm with Shion then, too. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it. The sensation of their arms, their warmth, and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same.
I think Shion liked you, Kei-chan.
I see. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back, run in the face. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Mion and Shion. You got along well, didn't you?
Well, I wonder. Kei-chan, do you think your right hand and left hand get along?
Huh? My right hand and left hand? I don't think you could describe them as getting along or not.
That's how our relationship is. We can't measure it by the scale of how well we get along.
That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well.
For example, one of your hands is dominant, so there will always be a better hand. If you only had one oven mitt, you would put it on your dominant hand without thinking, right?
Oh shit, I do that. I had to think about that for a second.
I think maybe it was like that for us. That doesn't mean, though, that anyone would be okay with losing their left hand. It's that kind of unexplainable relationship.
Well, I'm left-handed, so I would obviously not be okay with it. I think that maybe you live too close together and stop being able to see it, but I think that means you get along really well. I'm an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of when you and Shion were messing around with each other.
I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. Yes, we twins used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people. But now that we have such distinctly different personalities, it just gets in the way.
Were they cursed or were they self-conscious? The relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe that wasn't an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big, desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. Such a big forest was part of their property, so I couldn't help but feel small. It's huge. You must have had a great time playing it in as kids, huh? Mion seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back to those fun days, when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves, making a swishing, murmuring sound. Mion remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned.
Shion is still alive.
Oh. Really? Mion took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly.
Yeah. I'd been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it, though.
Mion sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me, she saved Shion too. Mion may have become a demon and led many people to their deaths, but she fought against it, and was able to save 2 people. Which is gonna become 0. As I petted Mion, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile, and untangled her arm from mine. Then, Mion quietly said,
"Come with me. I want you to see all of my sins. Although, Kei-chan, it might be the worst thing you've ever seen."
I could sense it. There I would probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika-chan and Satoko's deaths, as well as accepting that my best friend had done it.
It's already happened, and it's in the past. You can choose not to look, Kei-chan. If you don't want to, then wait here. I will personally end everything.
I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Rena had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I agreed to her last request, didn't I? Are they afraid that she's going to commit suicide? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'll still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see.
Yes?
Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. That won't change. It never will. The treetops softly swayed in the wind.
You and Rena both. Why do you only get really cool at times like this?
Normally I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question, but today I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking, into the thick forest, into the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine or bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place.
If you want to turn back, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person Mion Sonozaki is to you, but if you go inside, that Mion will probably...
She won't change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. I clenched my fists. Inside there was probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It will never change. That Mion is my greatest friend.
I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. I have a feeling, though, that I know why Mion fell in love with you.
Don't say that like it's not related to you. You're Mion. You're not a demon. You're a human, with human blood, and you're my friend. Mion made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. Time for hell. The lock on it was dauntingly strong-looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stifling, rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank out on the porch, and how intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's certainly what this smelled like. Inside it was pitch black, but Mion flicked the switch that turned on a light bulb, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were for storage. We passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated it had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give an impression of a dug-out bomb shelter that had just been left there, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were a second Sonozaki house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel. Oh, okay.
You saw what was in the ritual storehouse, right? The piles of torture instruments. All of them were created to uphold the strict religious laws of Onigafuchi village. They were tools used to kill those who broke the laws in terrible ways as a warning to others.
That was a long time ago.
Watanagashi, originally a ritual meant as a deterrent, was once overseen by the three families. But thanks to the Kimiyoshi and Furude families going into decline, and the way the times changed, actually carrying it out became difficult.
I can imagine why. You'd never think people could be okay with drowning people in a swamp and killing them in modern Japan.
That's why the Sonozaki family built this. A secret place, so that we could continue to conduct the rite of Watanagashi, even in modern times.
Mion opened a large, strikingly different door, and inside was none other than a modern storehouse for ritual implements. Huh, okay.
There's quite a few, isn't there?
Looks the exact same.
Some of them were actually brought here from the original storehouse.
All of the things there had been rusty and covered in dust, so they didn't seem that real. But the things in here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained, and kept in a state that they could be used right away. Blades gleamed and spikes were sharpened. Also, perhaps as a precaution for the splatter of blood, the walls and ceiling were covered in the kind of tiling you would see in bathrooms, and there was even a drain set amidst a slight slope in the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning up the splattered blood.
According to something a leader from a long time ago wrote, blood splatter has impact, despite the fact that it doesn't tax the sacrifice. Watanagashi was meant as a deterrent, after all. My ancestors thought up all different kinds of things to show off.
As she said that, Mion pointed deeper into the torture room, to a spot veiled in darkness. There was, surprisingly, a room floored with tatami mats, and in the corner was a pile of cushions.
They're seats for the audience. Watanagashi was meant as a deterrent, after all. It wouldn't make sense if there were no guests.
I couldn't speak, and I couldn't think of anything to say anyway. Except that if Mion revealing all this to me made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed to.
Right here is where I killed everyone. There were no spectators to watch me, but I did the Watanagashi very well. Well, perhaps there was one spectator.
Huh? A spectator?
Me. I, the demon, was watching the entire time Mion held the Watanagashi ceremony.
Mion cackled in self-deprecation. It wasn't a nice-sounding laugh.
Back there is the prison.
Is Shion there? She nodded slightly. Mion's Watanagashi had ended today. I needed to tell Shion that I was safe without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling in fear at this very moment, worrying about when she would be killed. The ostentatious door on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expansive space based on the echo it made. Mion groped around in the darkness, and a handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more of the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were bare rock surface, and it felt so savage that bomb shelter was the most apt term for it. Alright, where's Yoshikazu then? There were small, barred rooms built here and there, like holes made by insects biting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each one of them was a prison. Where is everyone? Rika-chan and Satoko! I wonder. Ah, I remember this. This looks very familiar.
They're corpses?
I grimaced at her having said it so outright. Yeah, that's right. The poor things being left here in the dark like this.
I didn't want them to get infested with bugs, so I threw them down the well. I'm sorry.
So I can't even see their faces in death. Once again, my feelings of regret at having confessed everything to Rika-chan came surging forth. If Mion hadn't attached the word sorry to the end of what she said, I might have punched her. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. You said it yourself. No matter what, Mion Sonozaki is your greatest friend. Yeah, my greatest friend. I needed to hear myself say it out loud. Then came the clattering of bars in one of the cells deeper in. When I noticed it, I looked up as well. Shion? Is that Shion?
Kei-chan? Is that you, Kei-chan?
I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking out through the gaps in the bars. It really was her.
Are you alright, Shion? Are you hurt? No.
Shion's face twisted out of shape as she screamed. It's because Mion had appeared right behind me. Yeah. Oh, of course. Shion didn't know that everything was over yet. Calm down, Shion. Everything is already over. Everything. I spoke in as calm a voice as I could manage to try and soothe the agitated Shion. However, it didn't seem like I was getting through her screams. Wonder why.
Shion, how have you been? No more. Please, no more. I don't want to see anyone else die. If you hate me, then just kill me already. I'm the one you hate, right? Kill me right now. Sis!
Calm down, Shion. It's all over now. It's going to be alright, so calm down. Shion, who was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, was truly in a frantic state. I gave a slight shrug of resignation, giving way to Mion. I had realized that if Mion was the one who locked her in here, and if Mion was the one who had scared Shion this much, then Mion was also the only one who could put an end to this. Mion spoke from over my shoulder, quietly.
Relax. I won't kill you. No, I won't kill you just yet.
Okay. She burst out into a bizarre laugh, as if trying to make Shion's madness even worse. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver, brought on by that laugh, and rattled the iron bars as she wailed.
Please stop! Don't kill Kei-chan! Kei-chan has nothing to do with this, does he? If you're going to kill someone, then kill me right now! I don't want anyone else to die!
My throat is not able to laugh for that long.
If you want to die that badly, then after I've killed this man, I'll take my time making mincemeat out of you. In accordance with the ancient rites, I'll do it slowly, starting with your extremities. I'll shave you down and mince you. I had that mincing machine set up specifically for you, after all.
I'll mince you! Fuck! Get out of here, Higashis. Oh, well.
Or would it be funnier, if I were to mince up Kei-chan in front of you?
Hey, quit it already! What do you have to gain by scaring her at this point?
No! Kei-chan, run away!
I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her this late in the game, but when I turned around... Oh, hi! Fucking Christ. Mion's mouth, so much that it was hard to believe, had twisted into a shape... this fucking song again, okay. Even thinner than a crescent moon. It was a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. The person here wasn't my best friend Mion. It wasn't the Mion Sonozaki who had been tossed out by her heavy duty of succeeding the Sonozaki family either. Then, who was she? I think I know what happens here. I'm pretty sure. But bam! I saw sparks flying before my eyes, like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength of my body drained instantly. My head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation and hit the floor. Then my whole body abruptly collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable, like I had fallen onto a down-filled futon. My consciousness reeled, then receded. It was the kind of sensation, like if you took a nap in the car, but you were still half awake, and could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. No, you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing it. It was happening so far away, and the conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you would have no interest in it. Is there a fucking... Yeah, of course there's a plane right now. So whether Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it annoying, nor did it interest me.
Now then, I wonder how I should go about preparing you. Oh, yes. What do you think of a bed of nails? I tested it on those 2 little brats, but their hands were too small for the restraining table. Let's do that. Let's do that!
Mion held me up from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scraped on it, and one of my shoes fell off.
No! Please stop, sis! Please stop.
Shion's emotions exploded outward, and she burst into bitter weeping. As if her crying had whetted Mion's interest, she held flung me down, okay, and returned to the prison cell again.
My, you sure can cry with a cute voice, can't you? Your unnatural bravado was making my skin crawl, but this definitely suits you the best. Mion, my big sister, I beg you. I don't care how you choose to kill me, but please at least let Kei-chan go. I'm begging you.
Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. And that's Shion, in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined it during those peaceful times. Prostrated herself before the older sister she used to scoff at and pleaded forgiveness. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference, one that was plainly smiling with joy.
You know, I wasn't planning on listening to your petty wishes. The way you're crying, though, is just too funny. I think maybe I'll change my mind and listen to you. Since, come to think of it, I never did anything big sister-like for you. Yes! Yes! Thank you so much! Alright then, let's hear you apologize for everything. Then maybe I'll let it all be water under the bridge. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let Kei-chan go.
Okay. Mion said she might let me go, but she never said anything about letting Shion go. Yeah, this is definitely shaping up to be what I think is happening. Before long, Shion got on her hands and knees behind the bars and began to speak weak words of apology. They were too faint for me to hear, but their intention got across. Despite having watched her with a magnificently jubilant expression, Mion kicked the bars and declared she was unsatisfied.
You think you can make up for years of grudges and hard feelings like that? That just will not do. I guess I'll make mincemeat out of you both! No! Wait, sis! One more chance, just one more chance!
Mion stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion.
You can't apologize to my satisfaction anyway. I'll teach you how to make an apology that'll get through to your older sister. I'm only going to tell you once, and if you even get a letter wrong, you're out. Got it? Yes, yes. Thank you, sis.
Shion's miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest returned a little at a time. I realized it was feelings of anger bubbling up. I was slowly regaining control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I still couldn't voluntarily move my fingers.
Did you memorize it? Then let's hear you say it, sincerely and faithfully from beginning to end with all your heart. If you can do it properly, then I'll only kill you. Yes! Thank you so much!
Something was strange. Something had become strange at some point. No shit, Keiichi! Like, until just a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mion, but at some point, she had become someone else. The Mion I knew well would never do something so nasty like enjoy trampling all over someone's dignity like this.
Now, let's hear it. Your big sister is listening closely. Shion Sonozaki is...
When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me? Anyway, this couldn't possibly be Mion.
Shion Sonozaki is a lowly, worthless sow, not fit to even lick her big sister Mion's feet. And when I think of the countless times I've been rude to my big sister without knowing my place... Yes, that's the spirit. I'll permit you to say a little more now, okay?
Blood circulated through my whole body. That's what it's supposed to do. My numb senses were returning. Oh wait, that's why. Just a little more. while Shion is still holding Mion's... No, that thing pretending to be Mion's attention. Hurry up!
I reflect on how impertinent I've been, and swear loyalty to my big sister Mion for the rest of my life. So,
Mion's bursts of laughter echoed throughout the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. It was not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. It was none other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of the earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it, and stopped smiling suddenly as if snipping a wire.
Alright already. That was funny enough for me. I didn't think you'd throw away that much of your pride. That was plenty enjoyable.
Mion began to drag me again, after I finally got the feeling of my body back, and pulled me towards the torture chamber.
Sis! Only kill me! Please forgive him! Don't worry, alright? I'll be sure to kill you real good. After letting you get an earful of Kei-chan's screams, that is! No!
After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me into the restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, with which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained each one of my fingers. She fastened only my hands, and my fingers at that, tightly with hinges and locked them in place.
Sis! Don't kill him! Sis!
The door to the big cave with the jails had been left open, so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time.
Can you hear it, Shion? I'm going to get started now! Please enjoy Kei-chan's young screams!
Oh! Give it a fucking rest. Is that the first F-bomb of this game? Jesus! The feeling in my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off that thing that looked like Mion.
Awake at last, are we? I lied before, you know, about having wanted to give Shion the most miserable death of all, but locking her up because I hadn't thought of a good way yet. That was a lie.
Mion brought over something like a toolbox. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer. And next to that, she began to line up what looked like long, strangely shaped nails, whose ends had been turned into hooks like the kind you'd see on a harpoon.
I'll let her hear the screams of all those people that died because of her. And after they've soaked into her very soul, then I'll kill her. I've got pretty good taste, huh?
Are you?
Huh? I'm Mion. Mion Sonozaki. Has the fear driven you crazy?
No, you're not. There's no way you can be Mion Sonozaki! Mion snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture.
I see. Then if I'm not Mion, who am I?
A demon. Huh? You're not Mion. Mion was just here. Give her back!
Kei-chan, is your brain really doing okay? You're not going crazy with fear?
Don't touch me! You damn demon! Give her back! Give Mion back!
My best friend.
Give Mion back! Mion stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense to demand Mion's return when she was right in front of me. But, this person in front of me couldn't possibly have been Mion. There was no way I could accept that. So, this is what I thought. Mion really had been possessed by a demon, and was controlling Mion as if it were a separate personality. Mion was just a victim being manipulated by the evil one was really this thing. It all had to be the doing of this demon possessing her. When Mion heard that, she started to guffaw, laughing so hysterically that she started to cough and almost choked. Hey, I almost did that properly then.
You really are a piece of work. You know that? In this moment, Mion Sonozaki is trying to kill you, and you're trying to reject me. I never knew there was such a funny person in all the world.
If you want to laugh, do it all you want. No matter what you say, though, I won't accept that you're Mion. Give her back. Away with you, demon!
Kei-chan, are you trying to kill me by drowning me in my own tears?
And my dog starts barking, cool. No matter what, I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly. I shouted from the bottom of my heart, so that the real Mion, trapped inside the Mion I saw in front of me, would be able to hear. Or apparently you didn't. You can do it, Mion! Don't lose to this piece of shit demon! You're strong. Show me how strong you are! The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with the restraints, so she couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow. Please. Mion! Mion! Where did you lose to a demon like this? You're not that weak, are you? Don't lose. Fight. Fight! Mion, desperately enduring her laughter, pressed one of the long nails to the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. At her side were dozens more nails. I could tell what she was about to do, though I wish I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't afford to be scared. That was why I shouted. My sides hurt like they're about to split. Is that all? I'm going to get started now. Be sure to give her some good screams. Not only am I torturing you, Kei-chan, but I'm torturing Shion as well. Why would you... Mion! Then, I wept. Only sobs came out. They weren't an acceptance of the torture about to be performed, however. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to the demon. Yet a small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining, little by little. By the time I realized it, the one in front of me had returned to being Mion.
Kei-chan, this may not be something pleasant to take to the grave with you. You really seem to want to know, though, so I'll tell you just one thing. I didn't know if this was Mion or just a display of momentary humanity the demon had recovered. A long time before the demon came to live inside me, it was gnawing at my heart, trying to spur me to violence, but I suppressed it with my reason. That settled the demon down, and I got to thinking it had gone away somewhere. As it turned out, I was wrong. It hadn't left me. It had just gone to sleep. I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes. The demon woke up again due to a certain small opportunity. What do you think that opportunity was? There was a sad and yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes. Do you understand? I don't know what gave the demon the chance to beat Mion. This might be strange for me, a demon, to say, but you're the reason that everything got so messed up. The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downward all of a sudden. At the time, if you had given me that doll without hesitating, maybe everything wouldn't have gotten so twisted. The doll I got. That doll I got. When we had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday, so this is the whole rabbit hole. Okay. I didn't know it played into the murders, but I guess it did. You probably can't understand. I wouldn't expect you to. But you see, all sorts of things started falling over like dominoes after that. And soon, it was too much for me to control. It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of knocking over the first one since it was so small. But you're the one who set it up. That can't... Me? If you hadn't made Mion cry, then I wouldn't have had to wake up. Is that enough? For you to die in peace? A mistake that I'd made on that day was what messed everything up? That can't be, can it? It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of it. Even so, Kei-chan, you are without a doubt the cause. If you had nonchalantly given me the doll that day, then I don't think this would have happened. I wanted to say like I just remembered something, as I recalled that day. Rena had told me about that, and I thought I had apologized. I didn't apologize to Mion, though. It had been Shion.
In other words, oh god, I hadn't said a single word of apology to Mion. Today I came to this house saying I had something to apologize for, but I never said a word of apology about this. Come to think of it, when I apologized for going into the ritual storehouse, Mion looked a little bit lonely, like she was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? Rena told me at the time, and now she herself, no, the demon was telling me. It's the only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured, to die altogether? I could no longer hold back the hot tears from pouring out of me. I simply just cried and reflected indifferently on the taste of my tears, on the taste of regret.
Can I start now, then? This method of torture is very simple. I'll nail one of these into the joint on the end of your left pinky finger.
Then I'll nail each one in order until I get to your thumb, and then I'll go back to your pinky and nail one into the joint in the middle. So on until I hammer 15 nails into your left hand. I'm guessing she was supposed to be saying that, but I'm guessing she's supposed to be saying this.
When that's over with, I'll do your right hand next. After that, if you're still conscious, I'll tell you.
There are a lot of nerves bundled in your fingertips, so it hurts far more than you could imagine. Some people apparently pass out before you finish hammering 30 nails into their hands, so... Mion pressed the tip of a nail into my left pinky finger. My wrists, my arms, and all the joints of my fingers were strapped in so tightly it hurt, and I couldn't even twitch.
I didn't hesitate at all when I was torturing the others. Why do I hesitate now?
If this will satisfy your demon, Mion. If it will sate the demon, then do to me what you will.
Are you serious?
Compared to how much I hurt Mion, this is nothing, right? Do as much as you want. In exchange, promise me 2 things. Mion was silent. She did, however, wait for me to speak. After you're satisfied with causing me pain, forgive Shion. She's been punished enough to make up for her crime of sneaking into the storehouse, hasn't she?
You. After all this, you can still worry about Shion more than yourself.
The other thing is that when you've had your fill, you disappear. Give that body back to Mion. That's all.
You know, are you not even considering possibly begging for your life or anything?
Can I ask you to promise 3 things instead of 2? The third is to leave me alive.
You said 2 in the beginning, didn't you? So you can't have any more.
That's a shame. In such an abnormal situation, Mion and I laughed quietly together, as if sharing in a stupid joke.
I probably won't keep these promises, understand? I'm a demon after all.
I guess there's nothing I can do then. I recalled tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were opened all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them. So instead, I tightened my toes. Okay, do it. I've prepared myself already, so do it. You waiting like this to hammer the nails in is scarier. It's going to diminish my readiness after all. Mion put down the hammer and gently stroked my cheek.
Kei-chan, I'll agree to just the 3rd thing, okay?
Huh? My 3rd wish, to save me. She'll agree to it?
Your 1st wish, to save Shion. That's long done for. The demon will kill her. It's already been decided, so I can't stop it. So give up on that.
Her delicate fingers swayed from my cheek to my chin.
As for your 2nd wish, to give this body back to Mion, that won't happen either. After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, it will be just a body. Because the Oni has taken it over.
That isn't true. Mion is... Mion! Don't say such sad things, like that she won't ever come back.
Can you hear it? That sound.
Mion gently closed her eyes and listened. I definitely heard it as well. Slam. Slam. It was a dull noise that repeated at fixed intervals. A low noise accompanied by vibrations. A lot of people were ramming the iron doors to this underground ritual storehouse. Oh.
You're late, so Rena probably called Oishi. That spaced-out girl being so quick-thinking was the one thing I didn't anticipate.
I'll agree with you there. Mion grinned like she'd been outwitted, then took something that looked like an electric razor out of her pocket. When she pressed the switch, pale blue sparks flew out with a snapping noise.
You've probably never seen one before, right? It's a real stun gun. It's illegal and its output has been increased quite a bit.
Is that what you hit me with before? It's not a toy children should be playing with, you know.
You're right.
She seemed to want to use the stun gun on me. Unable to move, I felt her press the cool lump of metal to my neck. Slam! I heard a roar as though they'd broken down the first large door. The halls were a bit complex, but aside from the door to this very torture chamber, there was nothing in their way.
I won't kill you, but I will have you go to sleep for a bit, Kei-chan. Oishi will be here soon. This will only hurt a bit.
Feeling the same shock as before, gritting my teeth wasn't going to help much, but I clenched them tightly anyway. However, just as she did when she was about to hammer the nails in, she hesitated a little. I cracked open my tightly closed eyelids.
I'm sorry for disgracing Mion.
I made a promise before coming in here. Whatever happens, the Mion inside my heart won't change.
Look, forget about that. If you ever see me after today, don't come near me. By then, it'll be the demon that inherited my corpse.
What are you talking about? Just as I tried to say that, a much stronger light than before shined. And like a television being switched off, my consciousness went black. Whomp! Okay. So then I'm pretty sure I know what happens while you're blacked out, dude. Granted, I didn't know you were gonna get blacked out. Oh, achievement unlocked, Twisted Sisters. Who the fuck is that in the achievement icon? Is that the doll? That's weird. I'm gonna go into spoiler time for a short second to discuss what I'm pretty sure happened there if memory serves, so starting now. So I'm pretty sure what happens is, that's not Mion who tased Keiichi, that's Shion. And it's Mion in the cage. So she's going to let Mion out of the cage, kill her, probably throw her in that well too, and then either hide or escape, maybe pretend to be quote-unquote Shion so she can get out of there, pretending to be a hostage because I know what's happening next. Keiichi goes to the hospital, and he gets stabbed there by, he gets stabbed and killed there by, Shion, so, yeah. Welcome back. June 1983. A string of disappearances occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. The suspect is Mion Sonozaki. Thanks. Something years old. She's suspected to have kidnapped 5 Hinamizawa residents between June 19th and June 21st. Oryo Sonozaki, Shion Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo. Imprisoned them and killed them. Preliminary investigations on the incident were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but it was resolved coincidentally and shockingly. Hold on. Oh, she killed Oreo? Friggin' Cookie Grandma? Damn it. On the morning of the 23rd, a vehicle patrolling the Sonozaki property heard screams from inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect's missing younger sister, Shion Sonozaki, yep, and her 2 missing classmates, Keiichi Maebara and Rena Ryugu. Rena was not missing, but okay. The suspect fled the scene. Oh, wait, what? Seriously? Oh, okay. Then I guess I'm wrong? That didn't happen? Deep in the detached basement on the Sonozaki property, which is believed to have been used to kill those who disappeared, we've discovered hair, flakes of skin, blood, etc. of the other 4 missing persons. Oryo Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo. We concluded that the missing persons were tortured in the torture chamber. That's its name or something. However, their remains have still not been found. Oh, okay. On one of her imprisoned classmates' advice, we continued searching the detached basement of the Sonozaki property, which was where they were imprisoned. Oh, wait. No. Then she probably did throw them in the well, huh? I see. So she is posing as the other one. Alright. which was where they were imprisoned. Believing that they were there, however, we still have not located them or the suspect's escape route. In addition, investigations are continuing as to her participation in the serial freak death incidents of recent years, thinking it would give some clue. But no evidence that Mion Sonozaki was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There are still many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and as those of the Sonozaki family and the residents of Hinamizawa have been extremely uncooperative in assisting us, we expect to require a long time to clarify them. The opinion of a local officer knowledgeable about the region is that this may have been a lynching, an internal form of punishing sacrilegious acts carried out against the beliefs of Hinamizawa village. It is clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region, and the prefectural police department has ordered a cautious investigation. We anticipated gaining valuable clues from the missing person believed to have been in prison for the longest time, Shion Sonozaki, the suspect's younger sister. But her mind was stricken by the grave after effects of the incident, and she has not been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions about what she knows. The psychiatrist, concluded that she is in a temporary state of shock, but doesn't seem hopeful that she will recover today either. Only a few days passed since that time. After that, I was rescued by Oishi-san and his subordinates, whom Rena had called in. Aside from my entirely blank state of mind, I had no external injuries. The most I had was a small burn mark from where the stun gun hit me. As I was having a checkup in the hospital, Oishi-san asked me all sorts of things. But I don't really remember what he asked, or how I answered him. From what I heard, surprisingly, Mion still hadn't been captured. There were apparently a great many hallways and smaller rooms extending out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't be strange if she had fled to one of those and hidden herself. The one fortunate aspect amidst all the misfortune was that Shion had been safely secured by the police. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her and then kill me. She probably didn't have enough time to, though, since Oishi-san came running in faster than she predicted. That was the only really fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now had a big, deep wound in her heart. She was in a severe state of confusion when they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist, alright. From what he heard, she was seeing Mion and everyone she saw. Hated not only the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere in Shishibone, hiding her location. Additionally, in fear that Mion would come for her, she was moving from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where she actually was. Wherever she was living, even now, Shion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at this moment, since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices. Hadn't Mion thrown the corpses into a well? I had a feeling I'd said that to him. That meant a hidden tunnel, vertical like a well, was somewhere in those underground passages. The secret underground without any maps or architectural drawings, which had swallowed up the remains of Rika-chan, Satoko, and everyone else, was still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again too, for an on-the-site inspection or something, but I didn't remember being of any help. I never wanted to go back there again. For days afterward, the Sonozakis living in Okinomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, the big-name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many of their followers with them. However much my parents refused it, they piled up many 100,000 yen bills, calling it consolation money, every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after it had passed 2 million yen, they were then given an envelope containing a letter. I don't know what was written in the letter. My parents talked about it by themselves for 2 whole nights, and decided to move away. Okay.
I see. You're moving, huh? When?
At the end of next month. I won't even have been in Hinamizawa for half a year.
I'll be lonely. I'm the only one left.
Rena smiled sadly. If I had just said yeah, I thought it would make her even more lonely, so I changed the subject. Here's something to think about. That's how I broached it. Mion hadn't actually fled, but had been demoned away in the truest sense of the term. Where she went after she disappeared? That we didn't know. What was there? Where she had disappeared to? I hoped there was a hobby shop dealing in imports, the kind Mion liked. In that place, she would definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of her family, and live not as Mion Sonozaki, but as just Mion, and enjoy herself. Maybe she's already met up with Satoko and Rika-chan. They must also have been waiting for the day Rena and I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities as lively as they always were. When I told Rena that, she smiled and nodded to me. But wait, okay, maybe I'm thinking of a different arc? Maybe? The incidents of the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide, too, were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny seam. The serial incidents of recent years were all pulled up like a long vine in the ground, one by one, and for many days, news of it was brought up on talk and variety shows. The shows, which were comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion had been bearing. It made me mad to see them bringing this stuff up in jest, but there was nothing I could do about it now. How big an impression would these short few weeks I spent in Hinamizawa have on my life? During these few weeks, I met my best friends and had the best experiences of my life. I would probably never forget it for as long as I lived. As for the distorted image of Mion that the media created, after the masses got tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her into trash, and then she would fade from their memories. As one of the few people who knew the real Mion, I must always make sure I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that will surely become my offering to her. The sky reached so far up, and towering cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. The real summer was just before our eyes. Okay, even now, whenever 10 p.m. came around, I would expect a phone call from Shion, or Mion, rather. Now that everything was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me this time. Plus, Mion still hadn't been caught. I couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Mion was safe. When I thought like that, I was able to sleep, even with such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. The moonlight filtering through the gap in the curtain shone onto the desk and illuminated a doll. That's right, the doll that I should have given to Mion that day. She said it was an import from England or something, and was all the rage, didn't she? From what Shion said, the most popular among them were the ones wearing the fluffy dress. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy store. Everything was apparently sold out besides the things on the storefront displays. I was refused once they said they wouldn't sell the display products. When they realized I was Survivor A from that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her again. Even knowing that, I waited for the opportunity to give it to her. I waited like this, for the opportunity, with it on the desk, so I could give it to her at any time. Okay. Plunk. There's a weird noise. It was a noise I wasn't used to hearing. It was too big to be raindrops, and was completely different from the sound lost bugs make when they ram into fluorescent lights. I figured I must have misheard and nestled back into my futon. Plunk. Oh, no, I know what's happening. The noise happened again. I wasn't hearing things. I definitely heard it. At least I think I know what's happening. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where, though? I listened carefully. Plonk. The window. Some sort of pebbles were colliding with my window. When I realized they weren't being blown there by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person, I gave a start. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. Who would it be at a time like this? I quietly peeked out front through the gap in the curtains. In the light at the gate, despite it being so late, I saw someone. They picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at this window. It hit the window and made a plonking noise. Who was it? Ugh! I caught my breath in surprise. If my eyes weren't deceiving me, that person was Mion. I threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes certainly weren't deceiving me. It was Mion. It was Mion! She was alive! Mion pressed her index finger to her lips and made a shh motion so I wouldn't shout. If she hadn't, well, I was nearly about to cry out. Mion was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was the middle of the night, I shouldn't call out her name. I waved to her, gesturing that I'd be right over, flung on my coat atop my pajamas, and flew out the door. You idiot. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had the sad feeling that this would be our final parting. Keiichi really is just a dumb horror movie character, I feel. Like, seriously, when has this dude done a smart thing in his life? So I went back to my room again and grabbed the doll. If there was a god, I don't think I would have ever thanked him as much as today. Even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other, I was so grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandals, unlocked the door, unhooked the chain, and leaped out of the house. Mion!
It's been a while. How are you? Been doing alright?
It was like how we used to meet every morning. Mion waved to me and responded like she always did. It was doubtlessly Mion. Oop, I did not mean to do that. It was the real Mion. Are you alright hanging around this place?
I really shouldn't be.
She certainly wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. It was almost like she was a patient who had gotten tired of staying in the hospital and had snuck out. Her speech was relaxed enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That relaxation, I thought, was more like Mion, and I was happy for it. Anyway, what's wrong? What do you need at this hour?
I wanted to talk to you one last time.
That was when I noticed them. On Mion's forehead were big droplets of sweat. Her expression, too, which I had thought to be a satisfied smile, was, upon closer inspection, trembling slightly, and I realized that she was forcing it.
Well, I can't stay for any longer.
A pain note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her. Are you alright? Are you not feeling well?
I tried so hard until now. But I can tell. I'm done. This is my limit. They're about to come up behind me to take me away.
Mion's smile crumbled and started to stiffen. Did she push herself this much to come all this way from me? Her laughter cut off and changed into rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away. Are you okay? Don't force yourself. Oh, that's right. I had something to give you, Mion. This doll. But then you kinda got poked, right? I had wanted to do this one last thing, because I knew how little time you had left. But this last thing, yeah, you got poked. Motorcycle Gunman! Woohoo! He lives! The revival! Welcome back, my dude! Hell yeah, I'm back, man! Franklin, you've done it! My stomach is burning. Mion took a meat cleaver-like knife, okay, and how do you stab someone with a meat cleaver? And pushed it in tight, and took it, and twisted it. Mion? Hey, what? It hurts. I made it! I made it! I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot, it was almost spewing fire. Mion watched it, then took a few steps back and cackled.
I've done it! I've done it all! That's everyone I wanted to kill!
The last words Mion left me with that day came back to me.
After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, a body is all it will be. Oh wait, she's still trying to talk. By then, the demon will have taken it over. The demon. The demon. The demon? The demon. Ah, the demon! Me... Oh... This can't... I thought we had finally been able to meet. This can't... Mion! The pool of blood of my own design is the doll I bought for Mion. Dyed in red. So red. Mion. The good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more, and the misfortune of that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful or curse it? My emotions were neither of those, as my consciousness sunk deep into a black swamp. The doll I bought for Mion, the blood, had ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. Ruined. The sad moon was so white, it looked frozen. Well, GG's, Keiichi. You got fucking poked. Oh, June 28th, 1983. A violent incident occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone City, Prefecture. The victim was Keiichi Maebara, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. At around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a bladed object by the suspect of the last case, Mion Sonozaki, and was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up, and was then transported to the clinic. He escaped death. Oh, no, wait, never mind. Oh, there's still more. The criminal fled the scene. At least I think there's still more. Might not be in this arc, though. On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fall accident occurred in Kamishiki apartment complex in Shishibone City, Prefecture. The victim was Shion Sonozaki, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Late on the same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used a master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. Okay. Then now I'm very confused. The room had been torn apart and appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor has frequently visited the Sonozaki house for a long time, and testified that he heard what sounded just like the two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believe that this was related to the injury case that occurred the same day in Hinamizawa Village, perpetrated by said incident suspect, and did a thorough search of the room, but we could not find any traces that would imply that anyone but the victim was present. The victim fell straight down into the foliage of a parking strip. Her neck broke and she died immediately. Her clothing was disheveled and had markings that would imply a scuffle. We also believe, however, that it could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt, based on the particular mental state of the victim after the incident. We are conducting a thorough examination on both fronts, suicide and homicide. Okay. I'm starting to think I'm a bit too stubborn to split this, so I probably won't. So we can get into Tatari Garoshi sooner. Oh. Only for 5 minutes, understand? Please, try not to excite him. Oh, yes, I'll be careful. Clack! The door opened, and as expected, Oishi-san came in. The man. Hello, Maebara-san. It's been a while, hasn't it? Tell me, how have you been since then? The doctor says my post-operative recovery seems to be going smoothly, and I think it got worse when I saw your face. You wound me. I'm wounded. As Oishi-san gave a laugh that smelled of sweat, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candies he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital. Your mom's there too? Okay. Excuse me, Mrs. Maebara. Would it be possible for me to talk to Keiichi-kun for just a few moments? Mom clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted. Mom, sorry, just a little while. Just 5 minutes, okay? Though grudgingly, Mom left the room. When she closed the door, Oishi-san grinned widely and looked around the room. A room to yourself? How high class! My old lady always gets a shared room, you know. It is quite lively, however. Seems like you're a higher rank if you have a worse disease in places like that.
The sicker you are, the prouder you are. Or maybe the more arrogant.
Oishi-san, we only have 5 minutes. I would like it if these were the last 5 minutes we ever saw each other. I don't have any connection to Hinamizawa anymore. And this isn't in Hinamizawa anymore either.
Yes, because there aren't any general hospitals in Okinomiya. Mind if I take a seat? Down we go.
This was a large university hospital in Shishibone City. It was splendidly urban, entirely different from the likes of Hinamizawa and Okinomiya. It was hard to believe Hinamizawa was part of the same city.
When does it look like you'll get transferred?
Don't know. I'm ready to go whenever, though. Our moving plans were delayed a little because of my serious injury. That would make sense. My parents had already left the house in Hinamizawa, though, and were living in our new one. They planned to have me transfer hospitals to be closer to the new house once I'd recovered enough to be taken there. Please, don't come to where I'm transferring. I really will get worse then.
Man, you really do hate me. It may just be my job, but that stings. That's why I brought you all kinds of lovely souvenirs in atonement.
You didn't need to bring an assortment of cookies for that.
Well, you see, there aren't actually cookies in there. Look.
Oishi-san opens a can of cookies and... Huh? Ow, I'm stretching my scar.
I didn't know what you were into, Maibara-san, so I bought all sorts of things. See, all sorts of cute-looking ones from westerns to comic strips. Lately, they have this sort of H manga aimed at girls, too.
Don't bring porn in here! Take them away and go home! Ow!
I thought for sure a healthy young person like you would be feeling a little needy, being cooped up in a place like this for so long. If you stay here too long, the only fetish you'll end up with is a nurse one, you know? There are plenty of other beautiful things in this world besides nurses, after all. Don't decide what to major in now, keep your options open. You need to be a more all-around type of person.
I gave Oishi-san's vulgar laughter a pained grin. Somehow or another, I understood. The fact that Oishi-san was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important to talk about.
The incident with Shion-san really was unfortunate.
The night I was stabbed by Mion, Shion fell from her balcony and died. They said the police were investigating all possibilities. Accident, suicide, and homicide. But it could only have been Mion's doing. Mion found out where Shion was hiding, and pushed her down to her death. Nothing else was conceivable. It couldn't have been an accident. It was Mion. It had to be.
The criminology guys are saying it had to be a suicide, but I'm of the same opinion as you, Maibara-san. She pushed Shion-san and also stabbed you. In one night.
Has Mion still not been found?
Oh, that's right. That's what I came here to tell you today. Yes, we actually did find her.
What? Ow. Learning that felt rather strange to me. I was partly relieved that the incident was truly over, and I was partly sorry that my best friend had finally been caught. I felt many other things, too. My heart was a maze of emotions, and my gut hurt.
That's not all. In the Sonozaki House catacombs, we found a hidden well. Just as you said, Maibara-san, we found the remains of all those who disappeared at the bottom.
I see. That sliver of hope, that possibility I'd believed in, that Rika-chan and Satsuko were, just from the fact that the remains hadn't been found. Gone.
It was incredibly well hidden in those catacombs. I mean, it was in the blind spot of another blind spot. It was a vertical tunnel dug out like a well. There was a ladder set up there, and when we went all the way down, there was another tunnel bit going through it. When we followed it a few hundred meters, we found ourselves at the mouth of an old unused well in the mountains.
I wonder if it was a secret escape route a previous Sonozaki family leader built.
Probably was. Maybe it was made in the Meiji era. Still, I'm impressed they built something like that.
So everyone's remains were at the bottom?
Yes. Even deeper down than the escape path, there was a pool of coal tar. They'd been casually thrown into there. They had fallen from a fairly high spot, so the remains were totally buried in it. Took a lot of time and effort to pull their bodies up.
Did you find them all? I hoped that they at least wouldn't find Rika-chan or Satsuko. That's what I wished for when I asked, but my shallow hope was crushed in the blink of an eye.
Yes, all of them. In fact, we also found human bones we think are over a decade old. We think there are at least 3 people. I suppose it's the dark side of Hinamizawa's history. I wonder how many people's bones we'll find when we sucked out all the mud. It's a scary thought. The weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the whole time. Mion. We've currently identified people who disappeared from Shishibone City decades ago. People are talking about how this opportunity might let us resolve the disappearing persons cases that have been abandoned. After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Oishi-san went for his cigarettes to pass the time, but realized this was a non-smoking area, so he gave up and put them back in his shirt pocket. Oh, right. This is a bit of a detour. But you know Rika Furude-san, right?
Of course, she's my friend.
Did she ever tell you anything along the lines of her regularly taking insulin injections for diabetes?
Eh? Rika-chan has diabetes? I didn't know what he was talking about. This seems very random.
Actually, we found it in her skirt pocket. A syringe. It was destroyed, though, so we couldn't identify the medicine. It was a bit out of place, so I got interested. You really don't know anything?
I didn't know anything about Rika-chan carrying syringes around with her.
The Sonozaki family corporates, the Yakuza people. Anyway, there's rumors that they deal in psychostimulants. I was thinking that might have something to do with it, too.
Are you trying to tell me that Rika-chan is a drug addict?
No, not at all. That isn't what I'm saying. It just seems strange however you look at it, that she would bring a syringe with her on her way to get soy sauce.
I have no idea what any of this means. Takano, you fucker. My eyes are spinning. I feel sick.
Are you alright? Should I call a nurse?
I'm fine. Please continue.
Well, that's all I had to say about the syringe. It was the only thing that personally struck me as interesting.
Rika-chan.
Rika-san was sort of like the village mascot after all. Looks like the village is in an uproar right now. Between the older blind believers and the Sonozaki family who killed her. The three families' effective control over the village is basically in shambles, too. If someone came up to them with talk of a dam again, with this sort of timing, the entire village would be abandoned for sure this time.
I'm not related to Hinamizawa anymore. I actually was. I just said it because the thought about Hinamizawa being abandoned was unpleasant, and I wanted to end the conversation quickly. There was a knock at the door. It opened slightly, and my mom asked if we were still talking.
Oops! We went off topic, didn't we? What a pickle!
I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, and if she could wait a little bit longer. Is that so? Keep it short, okay? There wasn't any getting around the fact that she was thinking about what a police officer could be talking to her son about.
Maybe we should choose another day for this.
Oishi-san. Mion. How is she right now? I wanted to just hear that answer and then get rid of him.
Before I tell you that, I just need one thing from you. I just need you to answer something in all honesty.
What is it?
I want you to take your answer seriously, got it?
Ooh, that expression.
If you say something indiscreet, it could be viewed as an obstruction to the investigation, and you could be prosecuted.
Oishi-san kept threatening me until the end. What the hell did he want?
Mayabara-san, who do you think the criminal was who pushed Shion from the balcony?
There's no way it could be anyone but Mion, is there?
Then who was the one who stabbed you?
Please don't make me say it again. It was Mion. Mion Sonozaki. Oishi-san smiled bitterly, then dabbed at his at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and yet it looked as though he wasn't satisfied with it. She pushed Shion, then stabbed me. Didn't you just admit yourself that Mion was a criminal?
The evidence we have that Mion killed Shion is based on testimony from the man living next door. This neighbor is actually a member of an organized crime group. In other words, he was Shion-san's bodyguard. It seems he's a veteran leader in that vein, and was like a parent to the Sonozaki sisters growing up.
That Kasai dude? That man said this. The noise he heard from next door was just like the sound of a fight between the sisters that he was used to hearing when they still lived together. And no, there was no doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other, and heard them struggling. At first, though, he thought it was a hallucination she was having, brought on by her dementia. You see, he thought that because that sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. However, that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down while he got the manager to give him the key. He'd already decided he'd at least check up on her,
and after she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and unlocked the door. Then they saw that the room was a mess. Since Shion had been pushed over the balcony, they decided it had to have been Mion, and that's how it happened. In other words, he only heard from the other side of the wall. Plus, because the apartment complex is connected to their organization, doesn't have many residents. So they were the only ones who heard it happening. To reiterate, there was only one person who witnessed Mion Sonozaki. Even if he didn't see her, isn't it obviously Mion's doing? Now, settle down. This is what I'm saying. It means you are the only one who saw Mion Sonozaki for sure last night. After all, Shion-san, the other witness, is no longer alive. What are you trying to say? I don't really understand. At that point, Oishi-san paused. The fact that this was a no-smoking area completely swept his mind, and he took out his pack of cigarettes again. Kerchak, he lit one with his lighter, and exhaled a long stream of tobacco smoke. Were you really stabbed by Mion Sonozaki? Yes. There's no doubt about it. The smoke Oishi-san breathed out floated away, like a thundercloud swept away by the wind. Oishi-san, you can't smoke in here. The nurses will get mad. Actually, we found Mion Sonozaki at the bottom of the well too. I figured as much. What? She fell to her death. We believe that as she was trying to escape that hidden passage in the well, her foot slipped while climbing down the ladder. She fell to the bottom, broke her neck, and died. Yes. The same way as Shion-san. She broke her neck.
Well, what?
After you passed out that day, Mion Sonozaki tried to escape using the hidden well, but her foot slipped and she died. As if beckoned by the corpses of the other sacrifices, she dropped down there.
But that doesn't make any sense, does it?
The autopsy came to the conclusion that she definitely died on that day. She didn't go back there after attacking you and Shion-san. She was already dead by then. My jaw was on the floor. There was absolutely no way that could be. Mion was the one that stabbed me. It had to have been her. There wouldn't have been anyone else to do it. Then who attacked Shion and me? Who was it? The one who attacked you was someone who was Mion Sonozaki and yet not Mion Sonozaki. My mind had become a complete mess, and I was starting to lose my ability to think straight. Do you remember how Mio Takano-san died? Nah? Takano-san? Yes. I think I heard that she was burned to death in some distant mountains. We learned that she was burned after being strangled to death. The Gifu station did the autopsy. It's a little bit strange. The results of the preliminary autopsy said that she had been dead for at least 24 hours. Since that was contradictory in their panic, they seem to have revised it to say she died earlier that day. Despite me being an absolute wreck over what was going on with Mion, he was telling me there was even more on top of that? I didn't understand the complex things Oishi-san was telling me. The results saying she had been dead for 24 hours, as our own old criminologist says, is pretty damn reliable. So then what would that mean? I've asked that question over and over, but on the night of Watanagashi, you were with Mio Takano-san, weren't you? I was. You also met her on the day before while setting up for the festival, right? I mean, I ran into her too. Yes, I was with her then. If she'd been dead for 24 hours, then that would mean she was already dead the day before the festival. That can't be. She was alive during the festival preparations. However, when you all slipped into the ritual storehouse, Takano-san was already dead. The origin of all that happened, the beginning of everything. Our intrusion into the ritual storehouse, which I had come to regret countless times. The one who tempted me, Takano-san. When she invited us into the storehouse, she was already no longer of this world. There are too many dead people walking around in this incident. An incident caused by a dead person and ended by a dead person. Also, apparently, they're under pressure to revise the time of Mion Sonozaki's death, not to the day of the incident, but to right after she stabbed you. Probably pressure from the outside to get this incident wrapped up already. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't say a word about this to anyone. Oishi-san grabbed his jacket that was hanging on the chair, put out his cigarette with the bottom of his foot, and started pretending to wave away the smoke floating around. I've stayed too long. I had come here thinking I could at least end this incident as it applied to you, but it looks like it got even more baffling instead. Absent-mindedly, he walked towards the door. Looking at me, unable to speak, out of the corner of his eye. If it so happens that something comes up you want to talk about in the future, call me anytime. My business card is in those souvenirs from before. When that time comes, I'll pay you a visit with some wonderful souvenirs again. Oishi-san seemed to think I was still hiding something. That I, after all this, would be hiding something? I'm the one things are being hidden from. I'm the one who wants to know. Then let us meet again one day. Take care of yourself. Slam. I listened to the tap-tap-tap of Oishi-san walking down the hallway. I still couldn't return from my state of bewilderment. Oh, jeez. Hi, Keiichi. He wanted to end this incident as it applied to me? What was over? Nothing was over. I don't like the mirror. I know what's happening. The incident was still continuing. Sure is. Look at that mirror. Oh. Motorcycle Gun Man! And the turtle. Oh, hi! I thought you would appear from behind, but okay. Then slip. An arm covered in fresh blood came out from underneath the bed. I wasn't that surprised. This was an illusion I was seeing, seized with fear.
Kei-chan, I told you, remember?
I heard a guttural voice coming from under the bed. I still recognized it as Mion's voice. What, Mion? What did you tell me?
I warned you on that day. After today, if you see me, it will be the demon that has possessed my body.
You did. You said that, didn't you? Sorry. Guess I wasn't careful enough. That's why I got stabbed. Possibly wounds sustained when she fell from the ladder. Many of her fingernails were broken and torn. Her arm slowly felt top. I can't read. Her arm slowly felt about on top of the bed, searching for mine. Oh, hey, Mion. I just, thought of a good joke. Want to hear it? The Mion under the bed didn't answer. Let's say that I died here today, but tomorrow I'd still be here living a normal life. So, when Oishi-san learned about it afterwards, the time of death wouldn't make sense, once again. He'd make a huge deal about how someone who should have died was alive, and he'd totally lose his head. Takano-san, then Mion, and then me third. So, funny, right? Makes you laugh, doesn't it?
Kei-chan.
Laugh. Or was it not that funny? Mion's bloodstained hand groped around and found my wrist. Though her fingernails were torn, she gripped it hard as if scratching me. Ow! Ow, ow! Go easy! Ow, it hurts!
Kei-chan, I've come for you.
I tried to shake my wrist loose, but the strength she held it with was unbelievable, and I couldn't. She was only gripping one wrist, and yet my whole body wouldn't move. I couldn't even twitch. My fingers were spread apart, and I couldn't make a fist either. And that fact that I couldn't make a fist reminded me of the restraining table. I thought she'd appear in the mirror, but okay. I felt a crooked nail press against my left pinky fingertip. Oh, no, you did. Hi. Mion's forehead was split open, and with a face covered with blood, she smiled and got right up, just behind me. Why is she wearing her school uniform, though? You should be thinking about that, Keiichi. Nothing was over. Nothing was over. This incident was far from being over. It was still going on. It was still happening. Someone, please end this incident. Oh, this is meta. Oh, shit. This cruel, tragic, unfortunate, sad incident. Please end it. That is my only wish.
I granted you one before, remember? You don't get any more.
Mion firmly held the nail down on my fingertip, and with her other hand, she slowly swung a mallet up into the air, and... Ah! The end! I'm pretty sure. Woohoo. Woo, a new scenario has been unlocked. All cast review session. Time for happy theory time. I guess I'll read it right now. Achievement unlocked, the last nail. Okay. Alright, let's fucking read that thing. It shouldn't take too long. The last one was like, what, 20 minutes? I'll cast review session. Alright.
Thank you very much for enjoying Higurashi When They Cry Watanagashi. How did you like the story this time? If you enjoyed it even a little, I'm happy.
A little nothing! Not again! It was a huge bad ending again, was it not? It is enough to make me simply furious!
I'm furious.
Well, good work, everyone. Well, that's not how it ended, but don't you think this story was kind of like a Mion chapter? I'm extremely satisfied with how big a role I played.
You cannot call such a thing a success! Rika and I got killed too, didn't we?
None of this concerns Satoko at all either.
I didn't want to die like that! We didn't see how you died.
Now, don't cry. There was a story centering around Mi-chan, so there will probably be one that centers around Satoko-chan too.
Yup, next.
Look forward to it.
I'm sure that in that story, Satoko suffers some terrible demise in some slow, deliberate way.
I don't want that! Okay, Rena's killing people.
Mi-chan, if you joke around too much, you'll make me angry too. Mi has a flat chest. Your mind wouldn't understand even if it wanted to be petted.
What? Oh, they expanded. Your body is so unchaste. What's the fucking joke? Whatever. Hi, Tomatake.
Hey, everyone. Great work, I died again.
Oh, sorry we're late again. Alright, same cast again.
Tomatake-san, Oishi-san. Yes, you did a great job as well. Where are Takano-san and Shion-san?
Oh, they're coming, of course. Thank you for inviting us today. May I sit here?
Yes, go right ahead. Oh, okay. So it is all of you, except for Keiichi.
With all of us here, this is sure to be the best part. Please, go easy on me.
Then should we get started? Is this everyone? Everyone but Keiichi.
Which means Mayabara-san is as busy as ever recording the script. Has he already started recording the script for the next story?
How unfortunate. It doesn't feel right to leave him out. Mio-san, you don't have to worry about that. At times like these, going all out is actually a way of showing consideration.
That's true, isn't it? We're all here for once. Holding a wake would be boring.
Then, sorry, Keiichi-kun, but we'll take things from here. It's decided. Okay, everyone, get the cups. Does anyone not like carbonated drinks?
There's alcohol for the adults, too.
Rika-chan, what will you have? Grape juice? Orange juice?
I want what Tomatake's having. Hey! Rika-chan, you're not allowed to drink!
But I'm having apple juice.
Has everyone got their cups? If we don't make a toast soon, my juice will get warm.
Who will lead? Mion? Rena should do it. Okay, Rena, go ahead.
Then, everyone, excellent work. The Watanagashi chapter is now over.
Thank you.
Ah, clap, 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 clap.
Okay, everybody's here. Shall we debate the story again?
I think so. Then let's get some honest opinions. Does anyone here have something to say?
What is there to say?
Weren't all of the mysteries solved in this chapter? The criminal was Mion-san.
The root of all the evil was the Sonozaki family.
Was that not the conclusion? I see. I was so sure that Mi-chan wasn't the criminal.
Too naive. This was entirely predictable from the previous Onikakushi chapter, was it not? In fact, it's almost shocking how predictable it was.
You're right. It probably did align with most of the predictions made by players of the previous scenario.
It's like the story went exactly as everyone expected. Then, does that mean the main Higurashi When They Cry scenario is pretty much over? So it's a sure thing that the root of everything was Michan's family?
I wonder. In fact, I think that this all means the theory of the Sonozakis being the guilty party has been disproven. Oh, you had the same opinion, Mio-san? I think the same way. Though I still don't believe in curses. At the very least, however, I think the chances of the Sonozaki family being the true criminals has gone down.
Huh? Why is that? Didn't Michan confess that she killed everyone? That's right! She killed Rika and me! So what do you mean that she isn't the criminal after all that?
I'm not trying to confuse you or anything. It's just that I think there are a lot of things that don't go along with Mion being the one behind everything. If you think about it a little, you'll get it. Huh. I had believed the truth to be more or less in line with the Sonozaki family theory. But I'd love to hear your theory, Mion-chan. Then hear me out. Near the end, I confessed that I'd participated in the past incidents, right? I thought something wasn't really right about that, so I guess that's my basis. I mean, think about it. If the incidents of the past were caused by the Sonozaki family, that would be crazy. I mean, wouldn't they all be perfect crimes? They were all attributed to other criminals or simple accidents, after all.
Well, that's right. The Sonozaki family is very powerful, and they were acting behind the scenes. Wouldn't pulling off perfect crimes be child's play for them?
I think that said them. I got a Steam notification.
That's just it. That's the weird thing. The Sonozaki family had been killing and erasing people so well for the last 4 years, they didn't even let out a hint that they were behind it, right? But the incident in the 5th year, now that was really cheap. They were killing and erasing people at random. Any idiot could have seen the connection with the Sonozaki family.
Now that I think about it, you're right. The incidents in the past were all mysterious, and nobody could tell if they were because of the curse or just simple crimes. But then on the 5th year, they suddenly got really violent. I do not understand what you are saying. Rika, do you? She means that if the Sonozaki family were the real criminals, then they would have done a much, much better job with the incident on with the incident on the 5th year. So, what does that mean? Mion-san wasn't the one who killed Rika and me, but it was the work of the demon who possessed Mion-san? Come now! Just like I thought last time, Mion-san wasn't a bad person after all, was she? That's right. Satoko-chan and I both thought that she was doing bad things because she was possessed by something. Then, does that mean our theory was right?
I've been supporting the curse theory since the last after party, and the story this time makes me all the more convinced it's true. That fact revealed at the very end. The information regarding how Mion-san and Takano-san had died days before, despite being witnessed, seems to indeed support that theory.
Oh my. I see the curse believers who seemed unconfident last time have grown quite a bit more self-assured. Do any of those who think it was a human have any objections?
Last time, Michan and Rika-chan were the ones who thought it was the work of a person. Tomatake-san did too, didn't he? Okay, let's hear what you've got then.
You've got me there. I can't quite find the right words.
One of the pieces of evidence for the curse theory is the mismatching times of death, right? So if I could disprove that theory, it would prove that a human did it, wouldn't it?
Oh, Shion, do you have a good objection?
Well, I suppose. I have the same opinion as you, Mion, that it was a human. But I don't think the Sonozaki family were the main culprits either. If it's okay with you, I'll offer my objections. Whoa! Show us what you've got! If you say it wasn't a curse, then let's hear your evidence!
Okay, Shion-chan. That last trick we've been talking about, despite Mion-chan having died the day of the incident from falling into the well, how did she appear days later to kill you and Keiichi-kun?
Here it is. My Sonozaki sister's conspiracy theory. My reason is simple. If Mion was dead by that time, then the only one who could have stabbed Kei-chan was me. I disguised myself as Mion and stabbed him. Then I went back to my room, pretended to have a tussle with a ghost, then jumped right down and killed myself.
Great.
So when you get down to it, Mion-chan in this case would be the one to take the blame. She would take care of the mayor in person, and Shion-chan would be made into merely a victim. If she hid herself in the well, the disguised Shion-chan could show up where she pleased and murder whoever she wanted. All planned from the start.
I get it. Then Mion-san made 2 mistakes. First was that her corpse was found, and second was dying when she only planned to hide. That's what it would mean.
Oh, wow now. You're right, there is something logical about that.
However, I'm still not convinced. It was too different from the magnificent perfect crimes in the past. Even if their plan went well, Mion would end up the bad guy, wouldn't she? She would either have to hide the rest of her life, or live pretending to be Shion, wouldn't she? That would be too constrained. You can't call that a perfect crime.
In other words, whether by dying or disappearing, Mi would have to go away. Rika-chama, that's a good thought. That means we should consider that Mion Sonozaki leaving the stage was part of their plan. That's why at the end, Mion took the blame for all the incidents in the past. She took responsibility for all of them herself, then left.
No one's even mentioned that Oreo died, like...
By doing that, she could cover up the true culprit behind the past incidents. Which means that this incident wasn't shabby. Its purpose was to cement all the past incidents as perfect crimes. I suppose it's what it comes down to. The young leader of the Sonozaki family, who was the biggest suspect, confessed to everything and disappeared. For her, perhaps for the non-Sonozaki true culprit, there likely was no more favorable outcome.
I don't understand even an inch of your conversation. What do you mean by Mion-san taking the blame? Is she not the culprit? Let me put it this way. The true culprit behind the serial freak death incidents was somebody else. Mi-chan gave a fake confession that she caused all the previous incidents to protect that person. Or so everyone's saying.
My, I said this during the story, but it seems we have an incredible detective on our hands. Yes, it does seem a bit persuasive.
An incident started to throw the scent off the true criminal. That's my reasoning. Though if I go further, I think the true culprit isn't part of the Sonozaki family. So it was Mion-chan disrupting the incident to further protect the mystery person who pulled off perfect crimes 4 years running then? That's right. The manager who only appeared by name in the last story is pretty suspicious if you ask me.
Amazing. It really does all add up. Clap, clap, clap. I still think the Sonozaki family and the sisters are the culprits, though. An incident caused by the sisters to sever their old feathers to the 3 families, to clear away the past. That's my theory.
Clearing away the past? You mean that they placed the blame for the 3 families' crimes on their final leader, Mion, to put an end to a dark history, and then the 2 of them left?
That's right. It would make it a sad story where we sisters finally choose to end it after a lot of worry. We went a little too far. Amazing. It really does all add up. Clap, clap, clap.
You did that again.
Wait, what? It looks like Rika-chan has an opinion too. Go ahead, Rika-chan. I have a question for you all. Why did Keiichi need to get stabbed? We already know why that is, Rika. It's obviously because he went into Forbidden Storehouse without asking.
Thinking back on it now, Tomitake-kun and Takano-san probably died in the previous story because they snuck into that storehouse, eh?
That is rather strange indeed.
Huh? What is it that's strange? Ah! Rena-san, that's right! Won't you think back, please? That's right. In the previous scenario, they were after Keiichi's life even though he didn't sneak into the ritual storehouse.
Murmur.
Ooh. Oh, well, that's because, yeah, Hinamizawa hates outsiders, right? That's why they tried to kill Keiichi-kun. That would be strange, though. They should have attacked Kei-chan's parents, too, in that case. No matter how you look at it, though, his parents never seem to be in much danger. Either this time or the last.
Hear that, everyone who thinks it was a human's doing? Unless you can properly explain the reason Keiichi-san's life was threatened, you can't definitely prove the criminal was human, can you?
Nah! Even with the curse theory, however, we don't know why Maebara-san was attacked this time or last time.
a little more, we would have had it. There are still a lot of mysteries remaining.
We can find some kind of reason for everyone but Keiichi-kun to die. But for some reason, Keiichi-kun's death is always vague. Last time in Onikakushi and, what the fuck, Toraimawashi, and now in Watanagashi.
I'm guessing that's a console arc? Sure.
He was being targeted regardless of whether he went into the ritual storehouse.
Then does that not mean he was doing something that got him killed both last time and this time?
I see. If we can find something in common about Mayabara-kun's actions between last time and this time, it seems like it would be the key to unraveling all the incidents.
I skimmed through the stories again, but I think he's going about his life in his own way. Though aside from the part with the storehouse, I didn't spot anything suspicious about his daily lifestyle.
Keiichi-kun, what did you do both last time and this time? Something bad that would cause you to be killed. It's best to ask the person himself when you're unsure.
They're gonna phone him again for the bet and he's gonna just be screaming. Ho-ho! So while I was reading the script for the next game all by myself, you were all talking about me behind my back, huh? I see. Y'all were talking shit!
Well, that's that. Anyway, Keiichi-kun, you should try asking your own heart.
Kei-chan, so what kind of bad thing did you do that would get you killed?
It must surely be all the violent things he does towards me. The way he sometimes directs a dangerous gaze my way and makes strange deluded expressions is surely a criminal act.
Yeah. Being happy all day, surrounded by girls around his age, is kind of like a crime in the first place.
A grave crime indeed. Mayabara-san is truly an envious main character, isn't he? Switch out with me once in a while, would you?
Cuckoo. Well, with all those perks, getting stabbed at the end really isn't much of a price to pay.
Well, there you go, Keiichi-san. Have you remembered the crimes you've committed?
Ah! Both this time and last time! I live a proper and just life, and I always meet a terrible fate in the end! What was that about ask my own heart? I'm the one who wants to know! This is bullying! Okay.
How sad, how sad. I'll pet your head next time for you. I wonder if we should go back and read Onikakushi again after reading this one.
I'm going to put myself in Mion's shoes and read back over Watanagashi. Maybe I'll find something different compared to when I read it from Kei-chan's point of view.
Hey, nice one.
I will always think it was the doing of a demon. All of the events and tricks can be explained with a demon.
They can also be explained with a magic flying pool cue. It just goes around and pokes people indiscriminately, and it cannot be seen. It's invisible.
It's kind of like plasma.
Okay.
What did you, the readers, think about it? We'd certainly like to hear your thoughts and opinions.
There's still a way to go, but do your best.
With that, please look forward to the rest of the Higurashi series.
Alright, I think that one was a bit shorter than the first one. But there we go, woohoo. With that, it seems we finished Watanagashi. Because I'm stubborn, this is just going to be one video anyways, because why not? It would make sense for the finale to be the longest video after all. Achievement unlocked, Watanagashi Party. Cool. Alright, so if y'all remember what I said at the end of Onikakushi, how I'm just gonna do the first 4 chapters with buffer videos in between, I don't know if I'm gonna stop at the 4th one at this rate. I might stop at the 3rd. It depends on what happens in the anime, really. I might do the 4th while the anime continues to air. I don't know. We'll see. I am going to do all 8 eventually, but I don't know how long it'll take me. I don't think I'm going to do the entirety of this alongside the anime airing. I might, just because why not? Keep the channel consistent, don't leave gaps between chapters. But yeah, I'm not going to do a buffer video after this one. I'm just going to go straight into Tatari Garoshi. This should be going up on Friday, the 13th. So, Sunday, November 15th, should be when I start Tatari Garoshi. I am assuming it's about as long as this one was. This one was only, like, technically a bit longer than Onikakushi. It took me more episodes because, I'm stupid or something. I don't know. I had a few shorter episodes and sometimes discussions that took up most of the episode, so yeah, but either way, that's going to be it for Watanagashi. I'll see y'all next time for Tatari Goroshi. So that's going to be it for this series then, guys. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button, and if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.